Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much, Laura.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Heidi Johnson, and I am going to serve as the moderator for the next session with Sister Kathleen. So just give a moment for all of our little squares to kind of jump around as people are transitioning in and transitioning out. So welcome those of you who are transitioning in. This is our third session of this morning anyway, as part of our Saturday homecoming festivities. And now with all of us being a bit more familiar with Zoom, we also know we need to give it a couple more minutes as people kind of find their way in and as technology allows us in. So we'll just give it another minute here before we'll begin. See some beautiful fall colors behind you, Sister Kathleen and Barbara.
Nice to see you, Heidi. Yeah,
Us.
this picture is actually taken, I think maybe Sister Beverly Rowway took it, I'm not sure, but this monastery is behind me, and it really, as those of you in Duluth know, this is what it's been like all fall. We've had the most spectacular colors this year. And people tell me, you know, over the last, not since 10 years have we seen such a bloom. So anyway, so I just get inspired every time I see this picture and decided to use it today.
And this one was taken from the garden court, and it's a picture of, you could see the chapel in the background and the sun shining through that window, and that part is the library.
Yeah. All right, so it's about 3 minutes past. We'll see if anyone else is able to jump on here, but I think we'll begin. We do have a half an hour with Sister Kathleen, so we do want to be mindful of the time. But first of all, welcome. And this session is focusing on our value of the year. And so as many of you know, every year we focus on one of the 5 Benedictine values that we lift up. Of course, there's many more values than those actually that are in the Rule of Benedict, but the college really embraces these 5. And this year is the value of community. So this session is going to highlight that value of community and have Sister Kathleen Del Monte as its host. So first of all, if any of you are new, I just want to remind you that if you could, please type your first and last names into the chat. This way we are able to have a list of everyone who joined us today. I also want to remind you that we are recording this session. So if you are not okay with that, it is all right to turn off your video so that you don't have your image there, just so that you're aware of that. We will be not only recording it, but also perhaps taking some screenshots of this time just so that we can share that with the wider community. At any time, if you have any questions, you are able to type those into the chat, and those will be monitored. And I believe there will be some time for Q&A at the end. So let me first introduce Sister Del Monte. Sister Kathleen Del Monte, OSB, PhD, is a Benedictine sister at St. Scholastica Monastery in Duluth, Minnesota. She serves as Associate Vice President for Mission Integration at the College of St. Scholastica, where she assists students, staff, faculty, the board, and administration in understanding and appreciating our rich Catholic Benedictine legacy, its impact on the mission and identity of the college, and the responsibility of each member to strive to live out the Benedictine values in their daily lives. Prior to entering the monastery, Sister Kathleen served as a policy analyst with the Florida legislature. As far as an overview, at this point, we're going to kind of turn it over to Sister Kathleen. I believe she has a couple exciting activities for us to do. And then, as I said at the end, hopefully there'll be some time for some Q&A, and this session again goes until 11:30. With that, I turn it over to Sister Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you all for being here. It's so wonderful to be together this morning to reflect on our Value of the Year community. As Heidi referenced earlier, as you know, the College of St. Scholastica draws on the very rich legacy of the Rule of Benedict, and as well the 1500-year plus lived history of Benedictines throughout the world. And of course, there are many values embedded in the rule because the rule is based on the gospel of Jesus Christ. There are many values in the gospel. The college chooses to focus on the what we call our 5 core values: hospitality, respect, stewardship, community, and love of learning. And so, as many of you know, each year we choose one of those 5 to especially ponder, consider, discuss, and celebrate. And of course, this year, as you know, the value of the year is community, which seems remarkably relevant given our current realities. So you are likely familiar with some examples of what we mean at the College of St. Scholastica when we talk about community. For example, sharing the responsibility to create and support the kind of community that you want to be part of. Creating a climate which promotes a sense of community, the common weal, the good of all, while at the same time valuing the uniqueness of the individual. Manifesting an ability to be adaptable to circumstances, but without compromising our own deepest values. Well, what about St. Benedict? What did community mean to St. Benedict? Benedict, who himself lived through some very difficult times, was all about community, right? He wrote his rule as a guide for living well, I would say living with integrity, this thing that we call community. In chapter 72, for example, of his rule, he says, community members are not to pursue what they judge better for themselves, but rather what they judge better for someone else. For St. Benedict, all learning, all growth, all pain, all hardship, all joy happen within the context of community, within the context of relationship. This is how we not only survive, but thrive. Now, it may seem a bit odd for me to be speaking of thriving in our current circumstances. And yet, I recently asked some colleagues, what does community mean to you? I invite you to listen to what some of them had to say. Checking in with friends and co-workers, being a listening ear and heart to someone who is sharing their story. Trying to be flexible because, well, these are challenging times. Taking care of myself so that I can take care of others. Giving each other grace and finding ways to be present and connect when we can't be physically together. Being more intentional in terms of how we celebrate. Today is a good example of that. Being kind and forgiving and accepting of things that may come out kind of sideways because of where others are at in that moment. Remembering our strengths, we're stronger together. So these sound like saints who have the desire and the willingness to foster well-being of self and of each other, to build up one another, to love and support those around them. Perhaps that gets to the core of community. So what about you? What does community mean to you? What are some ways that you are experiencing community these days, where you live, work, play, and pray? So as you ponder those 2 questions, and I'll repeat them in a moment, we're going to go into some breakout rooms and have some time to share in a more intimate environment our thoughts and our reflections on those two questions. And you'll get a warning when the breakout rooms are ending, and you'll be brought back into the larger room for us to kind of share as you wish. So those two questions: what does community mean to you? Right here, right now, in this moment, when you hear me say that word community, what comes to your mind? What do you think about? What does community mean to you? That's the first question. The second question is, what are some ways you are experiencing community these days where you live, work, play, and pray? So what does community mean to you, and how are you experiencing it? Are there any questions about the next step? Okay. So Laura, will you be putting us into breakout rooms?
Yes, I will.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet.
And as you enter your breakout room, remember, if you don't all know each other, just to do a quick brief intro of one another, and maybe your year of graduation, or if you're a friend of the college and did not graduate from the college, maybe when you first became, when this friendships first began with the College of St. Scholastica.
Okay, I'm putting us in breakout rooms right now.
Great. Have fun.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Fun.
Can you guys hear me? I have some challenges with Laura and I being on computers right next to each other in the same Zoom meeting. We have a little bit of an echo. So,
yeah,
thank you
I
guys.
can
for
hear you
being
just
here.
fine.
So
I'm having some
what-
bandwidth issues on my end, so
Are you?
I apologize if I get all crackly.
Sister Lois, do you want to start and answer the questions? What does community?
First of all, I want to say it's great to be with the two of you. This is really fun. Oh, well, actually, what does community mean to me? Of course, right now it means caring well for ourselves and each other. You know, doing what we need to do to stay well, to stay safe, and then doing that even if it feels burdensome, you know, like wearing the mask all the time, or doing the social distancing, or, you know, not giving somebody a hug, which is hard not to do. You know, to know that I'm doing that because I care for you and I want to help keep you well and safe. So that's one thing. And then maybe should we just do the first question?
Sure. What about you, Joel? What does it mean to you?
To me, it's community is trying to get away from the screen to have those precious moments when you can bump into somebody somewhere else, intentionally or unintentionally, whether it's on campus or in a parking lot or in a park or a grocery store. Just having that opportunity to see somebody outside of this 16-inch screen or whatever it is, so that you have that moment of interaction and bonding that doesn't happen the same way as it does digitally.
I would have to piggyback on that and agree with you 100%. And you know, saying you're up here more than I am, but when I do come up here, seeing people and, you know, stopping, just that, like that parking lot interaction or the hallway interaction, it just is so much more meaningful. And for me also, community means who's got my back, who my people are, who my tribe is, you know, who are the people that overlook my foibles, or, you know, just people who love me, warts and all. That's what community means to me. And the second question is, what are ways in which you're, I guess we kind of said some of that, ways in which you're experiencing community during these times. Sister, sounds like they kind of dovetail.
They really do. And actually, Joel and Brenda, I just agree with what you both said about what community means, because I feel that very same way when I can walk down the hall, like Barb mentioned in our earlier session, and she and I happened to bump into each other on the stairs. And it was just, we had all we could do not to give each other a hug.
I know it's hard, isn't it?
But it was just so great to just see each other face to face and have a few moments of exchange. That was,
Mhm.
it was very, very, very wonderful. And I agree with you, just going out for a walk, or that's basically what I'm doing. I don't leave campus too much, but just going out for a walk and just bumping into, even waving to the students who might be out on the field.
Isn't that great when you see them?
Yeah, right. And I just want to say, this is off maybe a little bit, but it comes to me now, and it's just so touching. One of our sisters was buried during, it was the early part of August. She died she didn't die of COVID, but she died. And we had her funeral the first part of August, and students were up on the field. I think it might have been a soccer team, the men's soccer team. And as we had our procession up to the cemetery, and we always bring, you may know this, but when we're starting out the procession, we ring what's called the toll bell.
Mhm.
It's a special gong on the bell, and we ring it for the number of years, the age of the sister. And so the toll bell was ringing, and as we approached the athletic field, everyone stopped. It was so moving, and they stood at attention. They stopped their play. They just stood there like an honor guard. We were all so moved by that. And when we came back from the cemetery, they were there again, and we didn't hear any, any conversation, and coaches saying things to them. And in other words, it didn't feel like they were playing while we were having our ritual
Mhm.
at the graveside. I don't know if they just stood there waiting, but we didn't hear any sound. And then we came back down from the cemetery. There they were again, and it was very at attention.
What a wonderful sign of respect.
It was, and to me, it was how they were showing community as well. We are in this together, and we grieve with you. Honor your sister. They didn't know who she was. I did get the email address for both the coach and for the athletic director, and sent them a little note saying how deeply touched we were by that. And they said, well, this is what we want to do for one another.
Oh, that's so touching.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And Joel, thank you for asking about how the sisters were in our conversation we just had with Barb. Thank you. That was very dear. Was that you that asked that question? Oh, no.
No, that
I think
wasn't.
it was one of the
that was
parents.
Jason. That was
Yeah.
Jason. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
But Joel cares too.
I
I
know.
do.
I know he does. Of course you do. And so do you, Brenda.
Oh,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Well, we were probably just about done.
I'm sorry.
Well, don't you wish today we were out in the parking lot on a day
Oh,
like today?
I thought of that this morning too. Come on. The most gorgeous homecoming day.
Yeah. And yesterday to have been putting up the tents when it's 80 degrees.
I know. Oh,
Maybe next year.
maybe next year. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry I took up all the time.
Oh, don't be.
Oh,
You did all the heavy lifting.
no.
It was a great share.
We're in it together.
Yeah.
What is that saying? Together as ever as one?
There.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of along those lines of what we've all been saying last night. Some of my old college friends and I got together for a socially distant barbecue on one of their decks to sit out and enjoy the weather. And the awkward piece of it became about 3 hours in, some other people randomly showed up who didn't know we were all gathering there. And suddenly it's like, how are we going to all fit on here and keep our distance?
Mhm.
It's sort of like spreading out over the lawn. But it was so great to just have that opportunity to bond and see each other.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Joe.
All right. See you guys
Thank
back
you.
in the big room.
Bye-bye.
Joel, thank you for the excellent banner behind you.
You're welcome.
I created it.
And I stole it.
Thank you.
Out of respect, of course.
Of course.
The best idea is stolen.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Sister Lois, you're muted.
Okay. I was just saying, Joel, it's nice to see Stay Home for Homecoming behind you. That's what we're doing.
So Laura, I don't think do we have everybody back?
It
We're
looks
missing Jolene Fink.
Jolene didn't go into a breakout
Yeah,
room.
she wasn't registered.
And then, let's see, did we lose? Yeah, I think Jolene is the only one who hopped off. She didn't get assigned to the breakout room. So yeah,
Okay, so we're all back.
we're all back. Yeah.
Terrific. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had good sharing, good reflection time. For our group, I think we could have used a little bit more time. Maybe I talked a little too long. I apologize for that. So we can take a few minutes, I think, if there are things that came up in your breakout room that you would like to share, particular observations or experiences that you briefly want to share with the larger group. You can unmute your mic and share.
Well, someone has to start, so I will. We talked about community being, common ground, commonalities, and connections with people that are important. And some of the ways we're experiencing that, it's a little different right now. Our options are more limited, but, we are able to see neighbors or through church, or Susan's pretty active on some volunteer boards. So she's seeing people that way. I'm seeing people at the office, not as many as I'm used to seeing, but that's one way of doing that. So, and then sort of a community with myself when I sit and do a jigsaw puzzle or something like that, that I wouldn't normally be doing, but.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Who else would like to share a thought or observation?
I'll jump in, Sister Kathleen. And I think just to kind of reiterate a little bit, Karen, too, is that we're seeing communities show up differently, that it takes more intentionality in some cases, but in other ways, we had a lot of conversation about how much we've become more connected back to our families and ways in which we spend time together with our families. And that it's, in some cases, the old fashioned way too, right? So picking up the phone and sending a note, as Lisa was talking about that. So, so rediscovering really our families and how much they mean to us.
Thank you. So there's a gift in all this, at least one. One more person like to share?
Well, I know Karen mentioned my name earlier, but being that I spend majority of my time at the Brainerd Lakes area, my neighbor down the road lost her husband last November, so it's been a challenge, and she's 78. But we would meet up before he passed away and would go to dinner or whatever, and they'd call me. Well, now we walk together, and then we meet other people along the route who we've never talked to, and now all of a sudden all these people are at the cabins, and so it's just a different community of connections we would have never had.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for sharing. I appreciate it. I think as Barbara said, we could have this conversation for much, much longer. And I hope that you do. I hope that you find this as a springboard to have these sorts of conversations in your own circles. I would like to close with a prayer as we end our time together. In a spirit of community, may we learn to love one another more deeply, so that we can create peaceful and just communities. May we use our creative energies to build the structures we need to overcome the obstacles of inequity and indifference. May we join our hearts, our hands, and our minds to be you for one another. And in all things, may you, O God, be glorified. Amen. So I thank you so much for your presence and for being community here this morning, and many blessings.
Thank you, Sister Kathleen, for leading us on a very, I just feel like I drank a very nice, long, cool drink of water. And I think that is so important as we share what we can with each other. And again, just embody that value of community in so many ways. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning, Sister Kathleen. Thank you, the whole alumni engagement team, for persevering and for continuing this homecoming in this format. Thank you, alumni who have joined us, and staff, and President McDonald, and everyone. So at this point, we have just a couple minutes. Were there any questions that anyone had, either about for Sister Kathleen as we go forward, or about the rest of the day today?
Heidi, this isn't a question, but maybe it's a good time to just
Okay.
add my thank you to all who have put this together. It is just so awesome that we can do this and have it be meaningful in a different way, you know, stay home for homecoming, which is what we're doing. But even though we're doing that, I really do feel, I've just been on a couple sessions this morning, but I really feel a real heart connection with you all. And maybe, you know, Brenda and Joel and I were talking about one of the gifts for us is not taking for granted when we see each other physically. You know, we keep our distance, but how we appreciate that we can somehow step away from the virtual and see each other, you know, in person. But this is really this is what has to be, and I'm finding it very beautiful and heartwarming. Thank you all. Yeah.